Hello, my name is Courtney Coleman, and for my project in English 2004, summer of 2018, I chose to do multiculturalism in the classroom and why we need it. This topic is a great way for me to understand the aspects of students with different ethnicities I'll be teaching in elementary school. Look at these pictures. Think about how you know someone of each of these cultures. How have they changed your view on society? Is it for the good or bad? If you think of them differently, how do you think teachers think of them? As a society, we hear stories of people of different races, which helps shape our thoughts and judgments based on those single-sided stories. We rush to conclusions based on what we experience, but we need to get to know them for who they are, not for what people make them out to be. A couple phrases and other definitions that help us figure out how to deal with multiculturalism are on the following slides. Cultural education, according to Keith Wilson, professor of education at Southern Illinois University, multicultural education is education and instruction designed for the cultures of several different races in an educational system. The effects of using it is that teachers and students must be prepared for the interactions of students with other races and either a positive or negative outcome. A major downside to this is that students who feel changed in school or personal life are too damaging, they can act out and create problems in the class environment. Wilson also acclaimed multicultural education is a potential catalyst to bring all races together in harmony, and I couldn't agree more. It will just take some time to not have history repeat itself. A major problem in classroom settings that always isn't addressed is stereotyping and the strategies to lessen or hopefully rid of it in the future. Stereotyping is a fixed, overgeneralized belief about a particular group or class of people per an article written by Dr. Catherine Good on Turnaround for Children. Negative stereotypes about children can disrupt their engagement, performance, and learning. To help eliminate this, having students know they can stretch their abilities not only to be a good student, but also be an even better peer to classmates is the way to start knocking down the stereotypical wall. Being direct with students about not judging people on the outsides reassured them that everyone goes through hardships and that they can overcome difficulties, which helps them become a better citizen in society. This is just a description for what segregation actually is, while the next slide is about the turning point of the United States school segregation system, Brown versus Board of Education. Segregation is a separation of people of different race, social class standings, and income. A study done in February of 2018 wrote that, as of 2014, white kids no longer make up the majority of America's public school systems. The same study also claimed that black students are just as segregated today as they were in the 1960s. This is contradictory of each other, but it also shows the United States is trying to change its education system. But the main thing is still left as the question, will they actually succeed? Students of different race and cultural background go to schools that have minimal resources and less experienced teachers. The major event that opened the door for desegregation and including the civil rights movement occurred in 1954 called the Brown versus Board of Education. It was decided that segregation in southern states was unequal and uncivilized. It was started when Linda Brown, a little third grader, dad, was angry because she would have to take the bus a long way away because she was African American, even when a white school was much closer. For much of United States history, blacks and whites have been prevented from attending the same school due to violence aimed at blacks who were going about their own business who got treated horribly. It has been noticed by numerous studies that the majority black personas are in high poverty, low achieving schools, while white students are in high achieving affluent schools. For many years, society, mainly teachers, have looked at the pros and cons of multicultural students in the same classroom. The main goals for students of different cultural backgrounds is to assist children in recognizing differences and similarities among their peers. In the article, Creating a Multicultural Classroom Environment, children learn that people can be different and unique, but still have much in common. These realizations assist children with accepting and respecting people of all backgrounds. Teachers also need to implement a multicultural perspective into the course materials and classroom management. This needs careful consideration of each student's cultures and traditions. The point of my project is to show people that we need to teach students about multiculturalism in the classroom, whether it's through World Cultures Day or a book about being you. Using multicultural literature in everyday life, it shows people of different stories and perspectives of their society other than through what we hear. For when you're using multiculturalism books in your lessons in your classroom, the following are the top 3 important gains out of using those literatures. First, it helps with learning about kids from around the world. Kids are curious about what their peers' backgrounds are, like where they sleep, what toys they play with, or even what food they eat. By using these books, kids get a glimpse of the life of another child in different countries. For a lesson, you could ask them, how are we alike and different than families in this book? Secondly, it teaches us tolerance and respect of different societies. It will increase cultural awareness and help us become more respectful towards people with different backgrounds. With so much violence in the world today, it's our duty to teach children about compassion. A lesson for doing so could have a group of students do research on leaders from around the world who embody peace, overcome challenges, and have excellent character traits. Last, it will not only encourage students but teachers of taking pride in their cultural heritage. It produces a positive self-identity when we learn about our own cultural background. It could be an historical event, childhood hero, positive stories, or a national leader can help us notice what makes us unique. The works that were used in this project are the following poems: School Days of an Indian Girl by Zikala Sa, and the Elementary School Choir by Gregory Djakin, Growing Up Italian by Maria Gillen, When I Was Growing Up by Nellie Wong, and Elena by Pat Mora. School Days of an Indian Girl by Zikala Sa is about how the author used her personal experiences to convey what it's like for her to undergo being removed from her family and village and placed in an English-only school. It's about having to change and adapt to a different culture to overcome obstacles. The 3 sections are about initially being taken from a place she calls home with friends, her traditions and customs are cut short, and how to overcome obstacles you must push forward to accomplish them. The following quote is how about she forced to eat and do things she didn't want to do, along with getting her carrot cut, which is a sign of weakness in the Indian culture. I began crying instead, for this time I was afraid to venture anything more. Our mothers had taught us that only unskilled warriors who were captured had their hair singled by the enemy. She realized that she had been strong even through the changes in society, that when her hair was being cut, she lost all hope of civilization. This story is about assimilation into another culture that forces people to let go of their previous societal norms. It's a coming of age story because she has excitements that soon fade as she discovers the unfamiliar world of schools with strict schedules, rules, and punishment. She is forced to essentially become a white person. She doesn't make any friends and spends too much time wanting to be with her mother rather than trying to survive and get out. This story is not only about Sa, but it's for many natives who have undergone depression for being forced in the white schooling system. The way she felt at the school, with being an outsider among white people, she gets urges of rebellion and revenge for the despair her and her friends have undergone. Her story is a representation of the resiliency and strength of the Indian culture, which can help students understand their society matters and how you can connect your past to your current way of life. One way that teachers can help students assimilate better in the classroom environment that hopefully leads to an outside world is to start a dialogue. By doing so, they get to discuss their experience, which can be anything from finding their home on a map to talking about the difference of their two cultures. Encouraging your students to open up and share about their life gets them more comfortable with their peers, while having the students share the amount they want to benefit that could actually work for their friends. Recent immigrants might be reluctant to talk to anyone about anything. Having a safe classroom can help them when they need to feel comforted. Gregory Jerzakins in the elementary school choir is about immigration into a new world with hopes it'll be similar to the previous life. The little boy is singing in his school choir. He could think of different places and parts of his past life and how it connects to the song lyrics. The little boy is getting used to the American society, even with having a little crush named Linda Deemer, with her amber waves and lovely fruited plains. She felt that he could become a happy new boy in a culture so distant from what he's used to, with the hopes of knowing more about the American culture. The following quote is about how the boy connected the lyric "Land where my fathers died" to his family deaths and how he can still be connected to his roots back home. A host of my great uncles and grandfathers stand from their graves in the Turkish interior and finding themselves suddenly on a rock among maize and poultry. Having the connection of past experiences and current experiences can help people who are changing cultures better adapt and have a sense of ease. The boy connects taking a train to visit his grandmother to about the trains in St. Louis, how every song they sang either had the sun or the bluebirds, and saying it was because America is so beautiful and full of life. At the end of the poem, the boy was setting a goal to impress his classmates, especially his crest, on learning the cities and states, as well as wanting to become a better citizen for not only school life, but for his personal life too. Knowing that other people are thinking of your society, helping them accomplish their goals to become a better member of their culture, can help people think about how they can become a better member of their own society. While the young boy is being assimilated into the American society, he's also being acculturated, which is when the student feels secure in both societies while having a strong belief of his own personal identity. He isn't ashamed of his heritage, but also are not afraid of interacting with people of different background. In order for this to happen, they need to think critically about their own identities so they can learn who they are as a person. Growing Up Italian by Maria Gillen is about a little girl who's Italian and having to change and adapt to the American ways. She talks about how in kindergarten she could hear the words in English but couldn't produce it. It was the Italian word that was always with her. The quote that describes how the child felt is, "I grew silent, the Italian word balanced on the edge of my tongue, and the English word lost during the first moment of every question." She talks about how her peers and teacher would bring in or wear things that were new and looking nice. While she got hand-me-downs, her mother would only bring minimal supplies, and how she had to make things from scratch to feel like she could fit in with her peers. As she grows up, she looked for that sense of the American man who could give her children who were blonde and blue-eyed. As the woman grew up, she wanted to find that sense of happiness that everyone else was achieving, with her guy with the money and her blonde hair, blue-eyed children. She eventually comes to realization that she was made to be different and that is what she's supposed to be. She knows her different skin color, her Italian parents, and how much poverty she was in when she was little. She was telling herself, "I can celebrate my Italian self." Our society is wanting to become the best we can be. Sometimes that means getting rid of or something that was defining us for who we are. Having that sense of groundedness can help us see what our purpose in life is, our own American dream. She was just wanting to be the better of herself to morph into this American society, but realized that the uniqueness of each individual is what makes herself up in the United States. The girl is reflecting on her past, but the conflict she is facing is coming from a different culture and having to adapt to it. Assimilation and stereotyping are both involved in this poem due to the fact that she is having her own happiness in a new culture, but how she thinks of that society is supposed to be look like, with rich and blonde hair, blue eyed children. People come to America in hopes of a better life, but they don't understand how difficult it is to become one within society, along with that they believe our country is, compared to what they actually see in real life. Assimilation into a new society becomes difficult when you're having to put up with stereotypes. To eliminate racial stereotypes in your classroom, teach students to value their own differences, and don't shut down the students that when they notice racial differences. This helps them better understand one another, which prevents judgments. Even when you don't know the correct answer, tell them you'll do research, or even invite someone from that culture to talk about their own lifestyles. A major way to avoid racial stereotypes in the classroom is to use cooperative learning. It allows students to form relationships while you encourage students to do projects about them where they get to know each other. Nellie Wong's When I Was Growing Up is about a girl struggling to identify as an Asian American in the United States. She imagined herself as someone who was of different skin color and racial background to blend in with society. Because of racial problems between different cultures in the Asian American community, Wong was shameful of her Chinese heritage and wished to be someone else. The beginning of the poem, she was told of her darkness, and she took that as not only the different skin color, but her soul, and how she noticed people of fair skin be called beautiful, and she wasn't. The quote, I discovered the rich white girls, a few yellow girls, their imported cotton dresses, their cashmere sweaters, their curly hair. And I thought that I too should have what these lucky girls had. Talks about wanting something that wasn't made directly for you, but having that desire and hopefulness of being that person in society. This poem speaks about how the American culture is portrayed through books, TVs, magazines, and someone who's wanting to become different can morph into their view on society to blend in. But towards the end, Wong realizes that since she can't become a different person, she must accept who she is to be happy with how she perceives society. Having that sense of knowing what makes a difference in the world and to not change who you are can make a difference on how you shape into your current culture. This poem shows the racial and socioeconomic status and how it's portrayed differently in the Western culture media. As mentioned about the poem Growing Up Italian, this poem also talks about racial stereotypes when someone's trying to assimilate into society but becomes stereotypical of the society she's trying to be with, as well as people being stereotypical towards them. Other ways to overcome stereotyping in your classroom is to make empathy training part of your everyday instruction. This means having class discussions, questions of the day, and role playing. Lastly, don't just ignore discriminatory behavior. Avoiding it won't make it go away. Make sure that they understand that not only you, but the whole school doesn't tolerate jokes, slurs, or discrimination. Also explaining them why this is wrong to do so. Elena by Pat Mora is about a mother who lost connection with her family who have become adapted to the American language and culture, while she feels left behind and forgotten. They moved from Mexico to America, which was supposed to create a better life for the family, but she feels they can't go back to their culture because she isn't able to understand the American ways. She bought a book on how to learn English, but feels stupid and out of place using it because she doesn't want to leave her roots. The quote, "I'm 40, embarrassed at mispronouncing words, embarrassed at the laughter of my own children," is described how she wants to try, but claims she won't be able to understand enough to progress in society, as well as not wanting to make a fool of herself, trying to speak and made fun of her family and friends. Having the want and desire to help create a life in society, you need to push forward in your goals. Having students know that their goals mean something to people is that you can help them achieve it. Especially with having a bilingual population at your school, peers will be able to encourage others by learning about their peers' language as well as how it blends with the culture. This is a story about pushing yourself to achieve your goals even if they seem impossible. To become assimilated into society, you need to have determination and the desire to be happy in the culture you're pursuing. One of the biggest ways to help students get assimilated in the classroom setting is to involve their families. The American education system's expectation of parental and teacher cooperation to educate children is rather uncommon compared to the rest of the world. Overcoming the language barrier is slightly difficult, but can reach out to the parents so you can model the school and family relationships while learning about more of the student's home life. This is the works that I did. Thank you so